create bridges between the corporate world as it is today and it was yesterday, and the spiritual side, the more, let's say, balanced type of life that we have, for example, here, and to show that it is possible to do both. Rekindle their dream, in a sense of they literally forgot. They sometimes forget completely how to dream, and they're not connected anymore to a vision. And not being connected to a vision is like walking like Alice in Wonderland without a direction. Leadership can be the leadership that you have as a mother when you're in your house, and having 4 children and a husband and an entire house to manage, and you are the leader of that house.
Sure.
You can be an opinion leader, for example, in a community that's online. Let people be free, and giving them the possibility of doing whatever they want. People will create. They create. We are creators. We have come on this earth to create.
Welcome to this new episode, and today I am here with Ana Cristina. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Hello.
Very nice. So Ana Cristina is an executive coach, and she's on the mission of awakening leaders. So she's been on this mission for a long time now. Very excited to talk to you. First of all, what is your story in life?
I do come from a family in Romania. I actually in Transylvania. I was born in Transylvania. I heard recently that Saint-Germain was also from Transylvania, so it's interesting also. My parents are teachers, physics professors. So I come from a very, very rational, scientific-based background. I was very good in maths. From the beginning, and in the same time I was having this part of me that was very interested in arts and also in spirituality. So these are things that started very, very early in my life. It's important because like my relationship with Kopangan has to do with these other 2 parts of me, actually with all of them. But anyway, I've done many different, let's say, paths, or started different paths in life. I was in art school for 4 years. I was in programming school, high school for 4 years. I was really good in programming. Like I know that even on this island there are so many programmers. So like I was really good in C++, which was the main language of programming at that time. But I realized that I don't want to work in front of a computer all day, and I was super passionate. My first passion, my most important passion was, and still is, the human nature. So I got interested in psychology when I was 15, and ever since. So that was super early on, when everybody was disconsidering this field, and there was no books about personal development, and everybody would consider you crazy that you're learning about psychology, but I was super in it. Some fast forwards, let's say the universe life brought me to have more of a economical university and background. I was in management school. Human resources management school. Then I worked very early on. I was in a big construction company in Transylvania as a human resources specialist. Then they promote me as a manager. At 23, I had 9 people in my team, and I was in charge of a P&L, like with the profits and loss. it was really exciting, and I really loved it, and I was very activated in my leadership and everything that I was doing. At the same time, I was very much involved in the NGO life. So as a student and as a young person, let's say, I was since 17. I started to work in different volunteering areas, and this is where I started to do my first trainings as a trainer since 17. And then, well, I realized when I was a manager, so I went very fast, very high. And like at 23, at least in Romania, I don't know in other countries, but at least at 23, to have a full business under your responsibility,
it's unusual.
It was quite unusual. And I was loving it, and in the same time I felt that I needed to learn much more. And my quest for learning brought me to Paris. I went there through a program, a leadership program for young people, let's say, high potential, I don't know how we call that, those kind of things.
So high potential leadership.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
young.
And it was through ISEC, which was the organization that I was part of, and this brought me to Alcatel-Lucent in Paris, which is currently Nokia. It's a very big company, a corporate world,
like telecom,
huge telecom company. And that's where my France/Paris journey began. I was there for 10 years in total. I went from Alcatel-Lucent to Orange, to a state-owned company that was responsible for the blood transfusions and services in the country, so 10,000 people.
Okay.
So very, very big companies, like 300,000 people and 10,000 people and so on. So very, very corporate, very, cubicle thing. You go to work every day at 9 and you come back at whatever 7. I was very much. And I did a little bit of everything. So this is like I was very much into human resources. Then I did marketing. Then I did project management at very high level. So I did really then I did sales. I did really a little bit of everything. And I realized at some point I stopped because I was so unhappy. And I went by myself. I remember now. I went by myself in a forest in Fontainebleau, which is near Paris. And I stayed there for like 2 days, and I asked myself, what do I actually want to do? And what is my passion? And why am I here? And what are my qualities? And this is where I come back to training. And ever since, and I can break it down in other small pieces, but let's say that ever since, I realized that I want to go back to training, and I want to go back to training leaders in behavioral training, so human-based training. And I got into one of the biggest, most interesting at that time companies in Paris. That was literally targeting executive coaching and training top leaders all over the world. I was very lucky and I'm very humble for that experience. And fast forward, I also decided after a few years to create my own company and to be by myself as a trainer and coach. So this is, let's say, the professional side, and this is where I am also today. I love what I do. I feel that working with leaders is very important for creating a ripple effect in the world.
Okay. So I can see, reminds me of some of the steps I had in the corporate world as well. Maybe you went faster and higher, but yes, I'm very familiar with the kind of lifestyle, where you dedicate yourself completely, soul and all energy towards a job and a career. And it is quite common at some point to start thinking, maybe after 10 years you do that, to start thinking, why am I doing this? What are my priorities? Who am I? You get lost a little bit into these jobs, right? Because they're so full immersion, like very little left. But in Paris, it's such a great city. How was your personal life? Did you have any energy left in the evenings? Or?
Oh my God, that's such a great question. Well, there is even this expression in France, especially in Paris, which is the métro boulot dodo, which means that you literally spend your life to go in a metro, then to work, then you sleep, and that's it. But I mean, I did have a social life. I had some really good friends over there, and I was married with a French guy. Also part of the corporate world, very much so. I learned a lot about the French culture. I became completely fluent in French. Sorry. Yeah, I was integrated, let's say, in their culture, and I really loved everything that I was learning about. As years were passing by, I was starting to be more and more focused on work because I was really loving what I was doing, especially as a trainer. I was also traveling a lot, so I was literally going in all parts of France. A lot of traveling, which has both sides, right? So it was a really tiring, and at the same time it was very replenishing because I could feel and see and know many different people.
Yeah.
But let's just say that with everything, I was not getting enough energy and rest. So in 2018, I got in a very bad burnout, very bad one. Good side of the story was that it was just before we left with my ex-husband. We left into a 4 months trip in South America.
Okay, so you took some sabbatical kind of.
Yes, and that was really good and at the right time, and it was amazing.
Bit of life after so much dedication and work, right?
Yeah, so much.
Yeah, I think in Copenhagen there is quite large minority of people that are kind of corporate burnouts. I include myself into it, of course. I had a major transformation on the back of way too much pressure and work in this corporate. I work for a multinational American company in fintech and with banks, etc. So I can relate to what you're saying. Of course, I moved on so much now that if I look back, it seems like a different life.
It does.
Whilst for you, to a certain extent, I mean, you're still coaching executives, so you're still kind of involved with the corporate world.
Yes,
so
I
are you able to find a compromise between, like your old life and the new one now?
Yes, I am. I actually do believe that my mission is to create bridges. Really, like actually create bridges between the corporate world as it is today and it was yesterday, and the spiritual side, the more, let's say, balanced type of life that we have, for example, here, and to show that it is possible to do both. I don't think that the complete rejection of the corporate world is the answer. Actually, I don't think that any rejection is the answer. It's more about how do we find a common language and what are the things that we want both worlds. Because every time, for example, even like with all my clients that I work right now, they all want the same thing. They want a better life for themselves and for their clients. They want a more balanced life. They want to contribute. They want to have a mission on earth. They want to be here doing something good for the planet. They all want that. They just don't know how to. Most of the times they even forgot. So and I guess we will go there, but one of the things that I help them to do is to rekindle their dream, in a sense of they literally forgot. They sometimes forget completely how to dream, and they're not connected anymore to a vision. And not being connected to a vision is like walking like Alice in Wonderland without a direction, which means that any direction is okay, which is also fine, but most of them actually want to have a direction. So it is important to remind them that, for example, even what we live here in Copenhagen can be a direction for everybody. And it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody should come on the same island. Actually, I don't advise that.
I hope not.
No, that's
Go
the
somewhere
thing.
else.
No, I actually believe it's a mistake that we all come in the same place. I'm even thinking for myself, I most probably will go back to Europe. And the purpose is that I think that we can create hubs everywhere. We don't need to concentrate everything in one point. Sure. We all have different places that we can go to. And to show that it is possible to create these bridges no matter where we are.
Finding a bridge between a more holistic, nature-connected and a spiritual life with also some meaningful work, potentially for a mid-sized company, small company, or a multinational. Yeah. So that's something that I would appeal ideologically to many people back home, I think, And I see in Kopangan many digital nomads. They sort of work in co-working spaces or in coffee shops. Do you think their lifestyle is much better here than it was back in Paris or in London or New York, where they're coming from? And what is this bridge actually? How does it look like?
Oh, that's such a great question. Do I think that it's much better here than there? I don't know, actually. I would say that it depends on the person so much. I mean, I have met here people that are unhappy as well. So it's a fantasy to imagine that you arrive to a place, wherever that place is on the planet, and then that's it. Everything is happy and paradise and so on. We are living on a paradise island for sure. There is no question about it, for so many reasons. I feel that the difference here, and this is something that we can create as a bridge anywhere, is more of a, how can I say this? This feels like freedom, this place. And it does feel in this way for most of the people, not everybody, of course. But for most of the people, it feels like freedom. It feels like you can go anywhere and work. It feels like, you can be anyone. You can dress in anywhere you want or you like. That you can have any type of activities that you want, that you can reinvent yourself and your personality, even change your name or whatever it is, whatever you want. So it does feel like freedom. I think that's one of the things that we're searching for as human beings every time, is like having this feeling of freedom and in the same time the feeling of feeling safe.
Security at the
and
same
security. Time. So I feel that, of course, this space can provide that. Maybe not all the time, maybe not for everybody, maybe not in the same way. But yes, and I'm looking, for example, in Europe right now, as I'm going from time to time, a lot of people work in coffee shops. I know in my city, for example, in Transylvania, in Cluj, there are many, many people that do that. This has become a habit since COVID, like a real habit. Like people really take their laptops and they go in coffee shops and they work from wherever. And working from anywhere, anytime, it's one of the, let's say, ingredients for, in this bridging. And big companies, some of them, they literally promote that. So I don't know, I mean, I don't want to do any publicity to any companies, but I have seen like on Spotify, which is, I use it as an app for music. And when you go on their website for employment, they literally put this like very, very clearly, you can work from anywhere, anytime.
As long as there's no everywhere and all the time.
Yes.
Because at least before you had a 9 to 6 kind of thing, then you check out and you still got your, at the time I had my BlackBerry. Now I think BlackBerry's gone bust, it's probably iPhone.
Yes.
But but then the BlackBerry was easy to kind of, not really look at. I mean, although if you were on holiday, you were still supposed to connect with the work, right? Yeah. But then now you need to have very clear boundaries around your workspace as well, because again, you don't want to end up at 10 p.m. checking the emails again just once, because
completely.
But for me it's very interesting to listen to you, because it's such a remote kind of memory I have of these 15 years that I spent in the corporate world. And when I see some of the digital nomads here, they look like Maybe they are in a more natural environment, a lower cost environment. Maybe they can work a little bit less because they don't need to have, like 4,000 or 5,000 euros just to cover the cost in central Paris, right?
Yes, for sure.
And as you said, you can dress as you like because it's not your boss looking at you the way you dress, particularly if you are doing something not front office, not on video. And also, there is a lot more fun to be had on the island very easily. I remember in London, even going from A to B would be like 45 minutes to an hour.
Yes.
Yeah, in 10 minutes you're everywhere. And you got such a variety of events, gatherings, and social sort of connecting sort of places that it's so much more fun. Yeah. If you want to.
And then, the way I'm challenging everything is like, why can't we do that anywhere? It's like, why can't we dress in the way that we want in the boardroom? I mean, I'm imagining, I'm making this exercise, like imagination exercise. What would it be if I appeared like this, in a boardroom with like top managers and executives? And I'm actually wondering, why not?
You can try, depending on the company, maybe. Yes.
No, but in the sense of why did we create it, as human nature and as human beings, those uniforms, because they are uniforms, sure. Right? Everybody's dressed in gray, in blue, in I don't know, whatever, black and white, and it's very, very plain. There is no life in those clothes, and it's a symbol, right? So it's, of course, people from Copenhagen don't care that much about the corporate world nowadays. But I do feel that, the bridge should be made in both sense. In a sense that, yes, probably we are, some of us, for example, that we would go from time to time in Europe, or at least we talk about what we do in the Western world. And then the Western world, either how it's starting to change and things start to move in different directions. But I'm also challenging in the other sense, in the sense of, what are we doing here? What are we actually doing here? I mean, I'm not talking about everybody. I'm talking about, some of us, and I'm including myself there also because there were periods and periods. In the sense of, we are on this island, in my opinion, so many leaders that it's just scary how many leaders and potential leaders you have here. And most or a lot of them get lost into the
they want to play rather than work.
And it's fine for a while. I think that for all the years that we have spent working from 8 to 8, to way too much, being burned out, being whatever, depleted of energy, depressed and so on. We definitely need all of us to take like a year or two of not doing anything and just enjoy and just play. But then afterwards, just a reminder that we are needed in the world, that the world needs us in the way that we want to. It's not about necessarily going back to a corporate world, not at all. But it's more about, how do you use your leadership skills? How are you showing up as a leader to inspire other people? And it can be through your photos and videos on the internet about how life could look like, or about your newfound let's say, belief system and how you changed your way of looking at life. It doesn't matter how, but the question is, for me, it's more of a, are we showing up also as leaders?
Because you mentioned earlier that you were burned out after being such a leader and doing so well in the corporate world, and then you ended up with a burnout. So that's the kind of present the corporate world gave you at the end, you know what I mean? And many people had similar experiences of having a corporate persona where you're faking so much because you got a uniform on, which is this gray suit, because you talk a certain jargon, you look a certain way, you are in the cubicle. So your whole life, basically, around work becomes so overwhelmingly important that, the creativity aspect, the spirituality aspect, the connecting with nature, the having genuine relationship with people sometimes takes a step back. And if you do it for 10, 20, 30 years, the dream or what you wanted to do in life originally is gone, is lost, is forgiven, right?
You disconnect.
Yes, completely disconnected. That's very, very common. And I think the problem for people is to find meaning, like a search for meaning is very important. So do something every day that, makes you feel like you're going towards a bigger goal, a bigger version of yourself, or you're helping people in a way or another. And that could be done in a corporate world, I suppose, or in many other kind of environments, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Because
leadership is not about the corporate world. That's
Indeed,
something that we misunderstand. Leadership can be the leadership that you have as a mother when you're in your house, and having 4 children and a husband and an entire house to manage, and you are the leader of that house.
Sure.
You can be an opinion leader, for example, in a community that's online, like for example you're doing with your community, with your conscious community thing. That's leadership. You're showing, you're inspiring, you're creating a space for people to show up, to discuss, to create that magic together. And that's something that I'm really pissed off about, actually. Like, I would really pissed off in the sense of we don't know what leadership is anymore. Honestly. None of the people that I talk with, whether it is corporate or spiritual or whatever, they don't know what leadership is anymore. Mm-hmm. And when I ask them for give me an example of one leader that inspires you today.
Yeah. And it's the culture as well of keeping safe and staying down, staying small, following the rules all the time, not having any sort of initiative to create a bigger version of yourself.
Yeah.
That's also a problem that we have right now. I think there's a whole culture is being built for you follow the rules, be small, get in, be this clog into the machine, rather than experiencing yourself with a different look, for instance, certain clothing.
That's self-leadership. So that's another thing. It's like, are you the one in the driver's seat of your life? Or is it something or someone else driving your life and your choices? In a sense that it's being in a driver's seat. It's by basically having self-leadership or being sovereign over your life, being sovereign over your choices, over your emotions, over your thoughts, over your behavior and everything that you do inside and out. In the moment that you do not know, so like this is another question that I love to ask, which is that whose leadership are you under? We always are under the leadership of something, someone, at any point in time. Whether it's, and of course there are segments of life, right? So for example, if you're going tonight at a dinner party, most probably there will be, whether you want it or not, there will be somebody that will take leadership, directly or indirectly. It's basically people that move masses or that inspire others to move, consciously or unconsciously, are the ones that are our leaders. And you can do that on purpose, or you can do that just because of your nature is like that. And the question that becomes is like, am I aware at any point in time how much of what I'm doing, how much of what I'm saying, how much of what I'm thinking and feeling is coming from me, like from my driver, from my master or higher self, or whatever you want to call it, the source, God, my true self, inner self, whatever. And how much is it coming from the outside, the society, the culture, the people that you have around, the image that you want to project on the outside, for example, that is also another way of leading you, right? It's like, I want to be seen as being, very professional and to appear as having a lot of very knowledgeable, for example. And that can already be something that is driving your choices and you're not necessarily aware of.
Sure. I know exactly what you mean, and You know, also that you mentioned the balance between, working for yourself and having your own time versus serving society, you know.
Yeah.
And the balance between living in the moment, living now, and sacrificing the present moment for the future, because you can get promoted, you cannot get pension later.
I would say,
you know, all these balances
yeah.
are very fundamental,
Always.
and people don't really talk about them so much, you know,
Yeah.
because again, if you go through the motion without being led completely by society, you just finish university or school, you get a job, you marry a local girl, and you just stay in this machine, which is the corporate world, where it's a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and it's so easy just to follow the structure. But then very often it happens so much. You get to 35, or some people 28, or could be 40, and one day you say, I'm knackered, I cannot do it anymore. My adrenal glands are spent. This is not a good life, even if I got the perks of success. And then you want to reinvent yourself. And that's when you have to break down the old persona around what you were before, your identity. That's what happened to me.
Yeah.
I had to destroy my old identity as a corporate guy in London for 15 years on a career ladder, and refine yourself and then build something else. Yeah. And it took me 7 years. Now I'm at this stage where I am building something else, as in I have a new identification of this guy in Kapangan, which is very different from the guy in the corporate world. But it's not so easy to do it, and most people struggle so much through the process, and then finding the bridge again between your new self and the old world, so that you can make it work financially, for instance, or you can have some meaning doing a deed that is maybe complex and sophisticated in a corporation. I mean, I'm not a big fan of corporations these days, but I do understand we need corporations, because if we want to fly airplanes, we cannot have a small local company building airplanes. We need a multinational like Airbus or Boeing that makes the planes, right? Yes. Same with telecom equipment and all sorts of things that we need in a modern lifestyle. We still need corporations, but.
And I would say that it's not even about needing them. It's yes, we do, of course, but it's more about they are facing right now, and it's going to be even more and more the case. They're facing a crisis, a very big crisis. They are not able to recruit anymore youngsters. Mm-hmm. The young people that are like after us, so the new generation of Z and however they're called, like the ones that are born after the 90s, they don't take any more bullshit. They don't take any more bullshit. And I've worked with them. I had a team of wonderful young students that helped me with my projects. We Dare Together, which is, I can talk about it later, but anyway, and I was looking at them, and they're working from passion. They're working if there is a real mission. And they're not, they're very much also into caring about their lives as well. And they just don't work just to work. And if they don't want to work anymore, they just don't work anymore, and they say stop. So the corporate world is facing a very, very big crisis, and it's going to be more and more visible in the years to come. And then the question that will arise, and it's not only for the corporate world, it's for everyone and everything, is what type of leadership do we want to have? And what I mean by leadership, again, is how do we want to, let's say, inspire each other? How do we want to lead each other? Not in a sense of there is somebody that's taking all the decisions, and it's a dictatorial kind of thing, like Ceausescu used to be in Romania, for example. That's not leadership. That's dictatorship. When we are talking about leadership, and actually this is a question that I would love the audience to ask themselves, is what is leadership for me? It's how do I see an inspiring, healthy leadership for me? What are the characteristics that I would love to see? And for me, if you ask me, it's a lot about having a vision of the future that is inspiring, that I want to be part of. And then to be also, let's say, to have that kind of leadership that is helping the co-creation, because creativity is and will always be one of the keys for our evolvement and our society. But then I would even add something new that has not been discussed so much lately in the last years, like many, many years, which is how about looking at leadership as spiritual leadership, even in the companies?
So you mentioned earlier that you were part of organizations with up to 300,000 people. And I think that when you're part of such a large organization with so many established procedures, established culture, ways of doing things, I mean, you need to fit in the culture first before you can try and innovate from inside, right? So it's very difficult also to be a leader in your own terms when you're part of such a giant and gigantic structure that's been there for maybe decades and decades, right? Would you, and also you mentioned that many younger people are looking to follow their passion, they want to search for meaning, they don't buy the kind of 9-to-5 corporate lifestyle like maybe our generation did so much, right? Yeah. So is it possible that maybe the future of leadership is away from these gigantic bureaucracies and more into empowering yourself to have a small business or do something in the local community? Because we got so much globalism going on, 100%. Which is very scary and very far away. And you know, we still have a local community. We still have abilities maybe to do a small business.
Yeah, 100%. Actually, my innermost intimate knowing, not even a belief, I know this is happening already, is going towards localism. So it's like going, we have this movement towards globalization, which is important, and it's still, you know, everything that we have as a gift from that, it's something that we all appreciate. We wouldn't be here today have we had not that movement, right? With the internet and with all the transportation being done in such an easy way, and being able to fly in such a fast way from one place to another, and anyway,
money,
easy money
to change into local currency.
Exactly, and now the capacity of working from anywhere, especially in certain types of jobs. This is amazing. Let's face it. But on the other hand, what I really, really know is that the direction that we are going towards smaller companies, a lot of solopreneurship, people that have, that open a company, they don't even need to employ other people. They will most probably work with other freelancers. There's so many freelancers all over the world that are able to help you to create an online company or even a physical one. And they're like, it's becoming increasingly easy to build something by yourself, physical or non-physical, online or face-to-face, whatever it is. And I do believe that this is leadership, which is that you take in charge of creating something, and you are, leadership is not about the number of people that follow you. That's bullshit. It's like, even the idea of, like, on, for example, Facebook, you know, I have a profile that is called the creator profile, I think, or something like that. I don't even know these names. Anyway, and now my friends are called followers. And I'm like, but I don't want followers, I want connections, I want people, I want friends. Why are they called followers? I don't want people to follow me, I want them to follow themselves. Even my coaching clients, I'm, as much as possible, and I'm not saying that I'm always successful at doing this, but this is my goal, which is that I really want them to become autonomous. I want them to become free of their need of having me in their lives as a guide or as a facilitator or as a coach or whatever. And I love when, for example, I have a few clients that told me this. They said, oh, you know, now I actually can hear your voice in my head when I need to take a decision or when I have a problem. It's like I can hear what you would ask. And that's perfect, because that means that they're independent. They don't need me. So, and I would even say that when they don't hear my voice, but they hear their voices with the same questions, it's even better. But coming back, is yes, we are the direction that we need absolutely to go is to be our own leaders, to be our own sovereign, let's say, I wouldn't even go further. Like, even though these words sometimes I had a allergy towards, which like sovereign divine being. It sounds very blah blah blah, but it is exactly what we are. We are a being. We are divine, all of us, and we are sovereign. But we forgot, and we gave our power away. So now it's about taking back our power. How do I take back my power? How does that look like? For example, it can look like I create my own podcast. In this way, I create my own news. I create my own knowledge, and I show it to the world. I can create a coffee shop. I can create a book. I can write. I can create a new product, for example. There are so many people here in Kopangan that are creating literal objects like, and you know, like, I don't know, jewelries, perfume, clothes, whatever. Of course, not even talking about the number of people that create workshops and circles and trainings and whatever it is. It's amazing. I feel that this place here, and again, that does not mean that everybody in the world should come here, but it just shows what's possible. This is a playground. This feels like, you know, if you let people be free and giving them the possibility of doing whatever they want, people will create. They create. We are creators. We have come on this earth to create our own reality, to create our own world, to create companies, to create projects, to create relationships, to create gatherings, to create magic, basically, together. And I really feel deep down inside that there is no person on this earth that is incapable of doing that if they have the proper, let's say, access to information. Mm-hmm. And that can be in many, many different ways. So that's the world that I want to be part of, which is a world of creators, a world of people that are feeling empowered, that feel that they are their own bosses, if you want. Doesn't matter. It does not matter if you work for someone or not. It's not about being employed or not. You can be employed and still feel and remember and remind yourself that you are your own boss all the time. You can always give up on a job that is a shitty job or a toxic place. But we forget that, and we are afraid that we're not going to find another job, or we're not going to find another way of, I don't know, creating money and so on, which is bullshit. This is just programming done by our culture, especially in the West, to create fear that so that they can keep you in shitty jobs, in shitty situations, in shitty culture, and really toxic situations. And by having this idea in your mind, it's just an idea that if you resign and you're not working there anymore, then you're gonna go on the street and you're not gonna find anything anymore, which is stupid. That's not the case.
Yeah, because indeed, very much so, people see their financial security, their status, and their meaning linked to these jobs.
Yep.
And you know, it does take a little while, though, if you break this identity, to come up with a new one. For some people, it's more seamless. But there is need for people to look at themselves and say, do I really want to be here for the next 40 years until I retire? They keep on changing the retirement age as well. You know, by the time you retire at 95, just before you die. So it's better, like, you know, think about it now. Have this midlife crisis early,
yes.
And you know, and maybe you'll find a way of living which is a little bit more harmonious, more spiritual, more meaningful.
Exactly.
Or
and
not,
just leaving, because it feels like, you know, when before, if I'm looking at my life before, I think that I was not living, I was sleepwalking, you know, literally. I feel like having been here, I literally awaken, and on all sense terms of that word, but before it feels like I was sleepwalking, like literally like walking in life, not being aware of what I was doing, why I was doing what I was doing, who I was. I was giving my time, my energy, and everything basically that I was and I had away to people and structures and organizations without taking a conscious decision, without being conscious about what I give, what I don't, how much, why, and so on and so forth. Even though I do consider that I had quite a, let's say, a lot of luck in having very good managers and very good companies, so compared to other people, I was really lucky. But still, compared to where I am now, I mean, I wish I could like scream on a big square in the middle of, I don't know, whatever, in the middle of a very big crowd. That's not life. That life is much more about doing whatever your soul feels like.
Yeah, like self-discovery first, and then aligning meaning and a deed of what you're doing with something that resonates with you thoroughly, because it's maybe aligned with your predispositions, because it's more soulful, so that at the end of a work day you feel good, not depleted.
Exactly.
You know, your soul can be grown or can be shrunk, and most people are giving the soul away into these soulless jobs for, again, money, status, security, you know. But, you know, and for some people it's great. I mean, I think there is a minority of people that are totally thriving in it, you know, but it's a minority.
Totally,
You know? It's a minority, and maybe 20-30%.
But even so, I feel that bringing back joy, bringing back creativity, bringing back beauty, for example. And what I mean by beauty is not only, for example, how we dress, which is already important, and it is a persona that we always put by the way that we dress, but it's important that that persona is something that you choose, that's something that you create, that is something that it's meaningful for you. But I'm also talking about beauty in terms of spaces. I mean, if you are literally surrounded only by 4 walls, white walls, it's not so different than an actual prison.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that I was talking with a Thai friend here, and it was so, enlightening for me to see when he said he tried to work in a job as an assistant in an office, and he only managed to do that for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, he said, I was going crazy. I really, really was going crazy, because I was in an office with walls around me, and I was feeling that I am in a prison. And I don't know how you guys are able to do that. It just looks completely crazy for me. And I was like, I really needed to get out and be in nature. And he resigned after 2 weeks, even though the job was amazing and he was paid really, really well.
Yeah, amazing in theory,
amazing
on paper, and not for him, obviously.
Exactly, but we don't know what we don't know, right? So for example, if we have been so accustomed all our lives, that was my case. You know, you go to school, it's in between walls, right? Kindergarten the same, whatever. Then you go to job, and all your job life, you're in between the walls. You're at home, you are between walls. So everything basically is around between walls, and you feel that this is normal, that you are in a cage, as any bird, for example, that has been kept all her life in a cage, they don't know what freedom is. But in the moment that you try something else and you really get out, and you're like a bird that starts to fly and starts to see, oh my God, there is nature all around. I can actually work also by having nature around me. And this is something that I really appreciate about Kopangan. You can go in different coffee shops and look at the sky, look at the trees, look at the sea while you're working and you're on your laptop. So that's amazing. And again, that's something that you can do anywhere. And it's just reminding ourselves that we were not built, we are not as human beings made to work in between 4 walls. This is not our nature.
Of course, you talked about your previous life and your current life, and Kopangan is, it's been a reality for you for a while now. Why do you love the island so much?
Maybe a lot of things will be cliche, but I'm gonna say it either how. I love the energy of the island. I feel that the island per se, even if there were nobody on the island, I think that the energy here is very, very particular, and I'm very sensitive to energy, so I can feel that. The thing that we are on a living crystal is not a story, is not a legend. It's an actual truth. I mean, you can see the crystals everywhere, the quartz, white quartz and the rose quartz everywhere. And this is very particular energy, which is an amazing, like I can feel it in my entire being. So that's one of the reasons. Of course, the nature and the beach, the sand, the looking at the sunset on Zen Beach, it's absolutely breathtaking. And being able to snorkel, for example, and be with the fish and the subaquatic life, it's also amazing. And I also love the fact that there are people from all over the world, and it feels like a melting pot. So it's like you don't even need to travel because everybody's coming. I mean, every country is coming here. And I have met people from all over the world. And I started to really get curious about knowing them. In the lights of the situations right now, and of course, this is a podcast that will be here forever. So I'm not going to mention that much about it, but I did meet, for example, cultures that were at conflict and that were very much in our country, so in Romania and even in France, they were very much judged. So I'm talking here, for example, about Russians and Israeli. And I met so many here on this island, so many Israelis, so many Russians, and I got to love them. I love their culture. I love their being. Love how they're thinking. And because now I start to understand, because I got curious and I asked questions and I really tried to understand the history from their side and what's happening. And this is a place for me where basically a lot of paradigm shifts can happen. So it's literally like your entire belief system can move, it's fluctuating. It's like everything that you believe was true here can shredder in a second, and you can realize that basically there is not so much solid things that you can hang on. It's much more about principles of life, about understanding the universal nature of and laws and everything, and then everything else is just stories and legends. So it's amazing. I find it's an amazing place, and I repeat, and it's very important for everyone, even on this island and beyond. These places exist in other locations as well. I know from friends, I know for myself, and it's something that we can build everywhere. I think that the entire world is going in that direction. I'm an optimist. I'm a positive person. I know that we will go through probably a very, very difficult period in the next months and years to come. I think it's going to be very harsh, and many things will happen. I know that. But there are two sides of the stories every time. So this is, for me, what's happening now, even with the wars and all the crisis and economic things. It's just the last trial of these forces to, let's say, it's like an animal that has been super aggressive all its life, and now it's been put down to the ground, and now it's still trying to move a little bit and shake and no, I don't want to be put on the ground, and I want to do whatever I want. But this is just the last part. Okay. I think we're going towards a world where what's happening here is going to happen all over the world. I think that's the direction we're going.
Lovely. So the Kopangan model exported all over.
Yes.
Well, Ana Cristina,
100%.
thank you very much, for sharing your gifts and your knowledge about, this corporate world that, I kind of forgot, and now you brought it back. But leadership is what I learned.
Leadership is not about the
it's
corporate.
not just about the corporate
leadership
world.
is everywhere, so it's just a reminder about that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay.
You're welcome.
Kapun
Thank you.
kap.
Thank you. Kapun kap.